So, race hustle rhetoric is not just a black thing. Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, y'all know I talk about race hustle rhetoric all the time. And the reason why I do this is because this is the number one example that blacks use as evidence that America is a racist nation and with all this systemic racism. And you know, you ask any black person to explain, well, how are black people being oppressed in America? You ask them to explain how they are being held back personally in America. And inevitably what they're going to do is they're just going to cite a whole bunch of examples of race hustle rhetoric. And they'll just throw all the rhetoric that they've been brainwashed with. Now, very rarely would they ever even be able to explain or defend the rhetoric, but they're going to throw it out there. But the thing is, this is not just a technique of black people though, okay? This is not a black thing. This is truly a leftist thing because this is how leftists act. And they have to act this way because very rarely do they have the evidence to support their narrative. But since my channel is mostly a channel dealing with black people and issues dealing with black folk, I often call out the race hustlers, but the leftists do exactly the same thing. You know, it's the same techniques that they all use, and they all operate by the same mindset. Now, Candace Owens, she recently did a speech at Albany University, or the University of Albany in New York. And the thing that kills me about these leftists is that you know who Candace Owens is, you know what she stands for, you know who Ben Shapiro is, what he stands for. So if they have a speech at a college campus, why would you go there? You know what they stand for. The only reason that they would do this is to try and confront these people, something that conservatives tend not to do. We believe everybody gets their free speech. But for some reason, leftists just cannot let you say something that they don't like. They must confront you. And again, that right there is more fascism than anything that you will see on the right. Would somebody please let Charlemagne, and not so much of a god, know this? But she was confronted by a man who basically said that he was in the LGBT community. And he was basically, I would say, more like a male. I'm not going to refer to this dude as no man. He's a male. So anyway, let's go into the interview. Excuse me, not the interview, but let's go into him confronting Candace Owens.
How do you think other people who, with your beliefs, respond to the fact that your hateful and harmful rhetoric costs the lives of queer children every single day, on average, every 45 seconds?
Okay, so this is just...
Now, although, well, there is a high rate of suicide amongst the trans community, you know, well, I mean, at least this is what studies are saying. But the problem is that he's accusing Candace Owens of being responsible for the high rate of suicide. And really not just Candace Owens, but pretty much conservatives or anyone that does not buy into the trans nonsense, that does not believe that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. You're either a man or a woman and there's no in between. Anybody who does not placate to that nonsense, we all get blamed for the high rates of suicide amongst the trans community, that because we don't accept it, it hurts their feelings and then they go commit suicide. Now, Candace Owens basically responded in true savage mode, as she always does.
45 seconds.
Okay, so this is just going to be a pure boogeyman. You're pretending that someone committed suicide because of Candace Owens. You've got no facts here. You're just going, it's your rhetoric that's causing all of this. When in reality, you want to talk about the tea. I sat down with a man named Walt Heyer who was convinced to chop his penis off after your community told him that there was something wrong with him because he had confusion. Why was he trans? Because he was molested when he was 4 years old by his uncle. Rather than being sat down and spoken to by a psychologist, he was handed hormone pills, and he eventually chopped off his penis. Walt Heyer is now 80 years old. He detransitioned. He does a lot of work talking about why it is that he runs a charity, okay, an actual charity that is dedicated to sex change regret, of people who have changed their parts and can't go back. And you know what happens? Suicide rates go up after they transition. after they transition. And Candace Owens wasn't the one that chopped their off.
And she's absolutely right here, Candace. The real reason why the real reason for the higher rate of suicide amongst the trans community have absolutely nothing at all to do with conservatives. The problem is actually with leftists. They have this campaign to try to cram this nonsense down society's throat so much. They just push all of this trans foolishness to the point where you have people out there who are not trans who will be conned into believing that they're trans, and then as soon as a person gets confused about their identity, quote unquote, that is quote unquote confused, the first thing that the society or the people in charge want to do is shove these gender bending chemicals down these kids' throats. They feel like a boy feels like a girl, so immediately giving them puberty blockers, which are not safe and are not reversible, and these kids have their normal puberty blocked because of these drugs and chemicals, all to delay what naturally is, so they don't have to grow to being what they are, and it cause irreparable damage that can't be replaced, can't be not reversed. As much as they lie and say that it can be, it can't. There's too many stories of people that I've heard have been irreparably harmed by these chemicals. And then you have the people who say a man who was bought into this trans nonsense, and they jump on believing they're trans and go out here and surgically alter their body permanently that cannot be undone. Go out and have their penis removed and then realize they're not trans, and now they have no penis. So they can't accept it, and they go out and commit suicide. So this has nothing to do with conservatives. This man is blaming conservatives for something that conservatives that didn't do. And what is this? Basically, that's end result thinking. Exactly what the leftists do. He took a situation in which a situation in society that's unfavorable to his group of people, right? And don't do any real research into why it's happening, but they just automatically blame the biggest enemy. In this case, is conservatives for the trans people, or anybody that refused to accept the trans nonsense get blamed. This is exactly what end result thinking is. That's exactly what it is. So as you can see, these leftists are all alike. They think alike, and as much as you hear these race hustlers, these pro-blacks say that they're not with the Democratic Party and all this stuff, they're not with the leftists, but they act like them. So regardless if you are with them or not, if you're acting like them, no birds of a feather flock together. So how do I distinguish you from these crazy leftists if you're not one, while you're acting like them? But like I say, y'all, race hustle rhetoric is it's not a black thing. And I only say race hustle rhetoric because I deal with the black issues and the problem in the black community, but really truly this could be leftist rhetoric just as easy, and it is, because they do the same thing. They operate in the same manner. They have to find any end result that's unfavorable to them and blame their biggest enemy without having any understanding of why the problem exists or the end result exists in the first place. That's what they do. But anyway, so if you ever hear any one of these leftists cry about how, or these blacks complain that they're not with the left and all this, where they are. But as you can see, race hustle rhetoric is not a black thing. It's actually not race hustle rhetoric. It's mostly leftist rhetoric, because that's how leftists act. Anyway, y'all, as always, until next time.